Whether you're getting the best in news, politics, and pop culture each week with the Political Deep Dive, or you're enjoying the latest news from the world of hockey on the Thursday Night Hockey Show, we thank you for watching. But you may wonder how you can help grow the show. Head on over to youtube.com/Papaduke. Click subscribe to see our content show up on your YouTube feed. Click on the thumbs up button on the video to let us know that you like our content. Click that bell icon to get notified when new content drops or we're live. Each of those things lets YouTube know to put this content in front of more people. The more people we get, the more people engage and improve our content. As always, we thank you for being a loyal viewer to our shows. These shows would be nothing without you. Hey there, everybody. How you doing? It's Dave Valente in the Political Deep Dive. How you doing? How's everybody doing tonight? Dan, you're on.
Terrible.
Very well.
Terrible. Yeah, my condolences,
I'm ready
Dan.
to talk about conspiracy theories. God damn it.
I went through the same thing last night, although I never really thought my Giants ever had a chance in the playoffs this year. I didn't even think they would make the playoffs this year. So,
Yeah. I mean, Giants underwhelmed. Cowboys, the defense played great. If you told me we held them to 19, I'd be like, oh, we got it. I guarantee you the Cowboys are good for more than 3 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
no.
Dak's got to go.
Uh-oh. Dak has got to go.
Pick up Garoppolo in free agency. And, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we're past the NFL's conspiracy of preventing the Cowboys from winning because they hate Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones broke the NFL's control on marketing. Jerry Jones sued the NFL when he took over, cut his own clothing line deal with the Reebok. Prior to that, the NFL controlled all the merchandising. He sued them. He won. Ever since then, the Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl. So
yeah.
Hey, Kerry, how's it going?
But he does still exude a lot of influence on the NFL when you think about it. Like,
sure.
When you think about like the Dallas Cowboys barely ever have a game that is called where one of their former quarterbacks is not the color guy on the game. He's on the competition committee. He's on a bunch of different committees within the NFL. So, I mean, he's still got influence.
He does have a huge influence. It's the old school owners who still don't like him and don't like Bob Kraft because they represent the new, the new monetization. It is what it is, but the friggin' conspiracy. I'll tell you what else is a conspiracy in sports. Right, there's a lot of game 7s that never should have been played. They happened because the network said, you know what? Maybe Michael Jordan, you lose these 2 games and we get a game 7 in Chicago and we get 3 more games of television coverage. I mean, those games are worth hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising.
Oh, yeah.
How is that not happening?
I mean, I can see that.
Like everything else, political and driven by money.
Yes, exactly.
And it's gotten even worse now that the sports books are involved because now it's, there's so much money moving into sports that there is the idea that there could be some manipulation going on in sporting some sporting events. I know a lot of people complain that a game is, yeah, James has it right, rigged. A lot of times when they think that there's an upset, that it's rigged because, uh, oh yeah, I don't remember if Ralph Nader sued the NBA on that, but I wouldn't be surprised. That's kind of a Ralph Nader,
I think
Nader
he
move.
sued the NBA over seatbelts.
Oh, there you go. Or
What?
exploding asses. The
And
collision from behind caused a player to explode, and he wanted the safety aspect of that. So,
there's a great top 10 that Letterman had of top 10 ways Ralph Nader has made cars safer. And I won't remember all of them, but one of them was no more piano wire seatbelts. Eliminated the dashboard hibachi.
dashboard hibachi, nice, excellent. Um, so yeah, tonight's episode is on conspiracy theories. It's one of the things that people like to link people in the liberty sphere to is conspiracy theories, and we do have a lot of people within the liberty sphere that posit different conspiracy theories, whether they believe that jet fuel can't melt steel beams, the 9/11 truther conspiracies, or JFK, or flat Earth. I've seen so many of them out there, and I thought this would be a good chance for us to take a look at some of these conspiracies. Which ones do we believe? Which ones sound plausible? Um, and why do we believe in conspiracy theories? Because I think that's one of the things is, um, why do conspiracy theories, even the most outlandish ones, and I've got a nice chart that I wanted to introduce, and I'll probably have to take off the chat stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
let's see it.
yeah, so this is from a person named Abby. We'll see here in a second. Her
Hmm.
name is Abby Richards. She does a TikTok site called Topology. One of the things she did recently is she did a study on how long would it take for somebody who exposed or looked up transphobe TikToks. How long would it for them to get to like seriously fascist TikTok? It was anti-Jewish imagery and things like that. And her study, it took like 4 hours worth of TikTok viewing, for well, it's like 400 episodes, and TikToks are famously short, so it doesn't take that long. It's like 4 hours, 6 hours to get from, your first foray into TikTok, and then all the way to, just deep, anti-Semitic tropes and all that stuff. So, but this is something that she had been working on. I've seen this a few times, and it's this inverted pyramid of conspiracy theories, from the most outlandish ones at the very top here, the the thick base of it, um, to the ones that are actually true at the bottom here. So, like big tobacco lying about cancer, Tuskegee, MK Ultra, things like that, and NSA mass surveillance on Americans. So those are the ones that were started out as conspiracy theories and then ended up being proven right. Um, Going all the way up to the top here, and we're going to go through some of these conspiracy theories and talk about them, and some of these up here at the top will roast pretty good. The ones as we get closer to the bottom, there's some questions on them, and we'll talk about that. Uh, but in general, Dan and AJ, what are your feelings on conspiracy theories? Your general,
Can I suggest you should share this image in the chat on the
yeah,
Facebook for the event? So that everybody who's watching it. We got a lot of people watching on YouTube too, which I'm very happy about.
yay.
Um,
Yeah.
and if you are watching on YouTube, please click that subscribe button right down there and the bell to get reminded. In fact, it looks like everybody's watching on YouTube, which is awesome. AJ, please tell us about your conspiracy theories.
Oh, I don't have any personally. I enjoy conspiracy theories because I don't know. How could we possibly know everything? How could how could everything that we're getting from any organization, but especially the government, how could they possibly be telling us the whole truth? Because they never have, right? So, I mean, it's easy to have conspiracy theories there, but also it's very interesting. And I mean, I don't know. Pandemic 2020. What all did we have to do but sit around and think of how this is not right and how this is a conspiracy? And oh my, how many people went insane. But conspiracy theories in general, I can enjoy them. Um, I'm a big believer in evidence, but I don't know that we are always going to be able to have access to those areas or those files or that information. So, what do you think, Dan?
There's this wonderful statistic that talks about how humans are really good at recognizing patterns. In fact, we're preconditioned to recognize patterns in our brains. It's why, like, if you put on glasses that make you see the world upside down, after a while, your brain figures it out and it turns it around and you'll see everything right side up again. So we see all these patterns, and there's all sorts of terrible consequences of wanting to see patterns. And probably one of the best examples is something that we talk about as libertarians. Um, if you talk to police officers, because they have seen a pattern in some cases of more Black people committing crimes, they start to believe that Black people are more likely to commit crimes, even though that's completely not true. That's not what the evidence shows, anything like that, because the human brain is preconditioned to believe, to recognize patterns and say, well, that's what the pattern is, and that's what the logical conclusion is. And so we have all of these conspiracy theories that are based off of what we can see and what we think the pattern is. But one of the most important things to remember is that causality is not correlation. People say that all the time, but there's a wonderful chart out there, and you guys can look for it. If you just search on Google for autism and organic food, you'll see that the rate of autism has almost mirrored the rate of the expansion of the organic food market. If you didn't know any better, you'd say, well, look, these curves look exactly the same. Organic food is clearly causing autism, but it's not, unless you believe in conspiracy theories. But that's the problem with most of the conspiracy theories that are out there. But then the thing that really makes it a problem is that there are some times when there are conspiracy theories and they're actually true, as are pointed out on this chart. So I don't think, like, I'm looking at this Free Britney, but
Yeah.
dude, I don't know that I really do think Epstein didn't kill himself. That's just insane to me, right? That he was in jail on suicide watch and ended up dead. No way.
Yeah.
And I
You
I
have
don't
a high
understand.
profile prisoner, though, like
Yeah,
a nobody, maybe, but he wasn't a nobody. That was a big deal.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
Wow.
and he would apparently had attempted something like a few days before. So it was like, this is somebody you should be looking at.
yeah. No, I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean the literal interpretation of the word. It is unbelievable that Epstein killed himself. And other things out there, like we have a great example of the fact that there was a conspiracy to keep the American people in the dark about the NSA surveillance of Americans. And
Mhm.
Edward Snowden blew the whistle on that. And they try to make it seem like, oh, he's crazy and he's a criminal and a threat to America. When in reality, what he did was he reported the committing of a crime to the highest judicial body in the United States, which is the people.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there was this giant conspiracy going on, and a lot of people in the government knew about it. Unfortunately, somebody did something like that. Abraham Lincoln's hat that's not a conspiracy theory. That
No,
is
that
the
was
truth.
proven.
Yeah,
Beyond the shadow of a doubt.
right.
For me with conspiracy theories, I really am I guess skepticism is kind of a large thing. It leads into a lot of conspiracy theories. I'm more on the other side. I'm very skeptical whenever I hear about conspiracy theories. Whenever somebody comes up with this stuff, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, if somebody comes up with some kind of conspiracy theory, I'm very leery of it. It has to have, I mean, it really has to check off some real plausible boxes for me. Like Epstein killing himself ticks off some plausible boxes for me, or not killing himself, ticks off some plausible boxes for me because it was in a very controlled environment. Only a few people would have had access to them. And controlling the information getting out from that is a lot easier than when people tell me about 9/11. The sheer number of people that you would have to shut up to get 9/11 to have something like 9/11 happen once that it has happened is astronomical. Like you can never convince me that 9/11 was an inside job, quote unquote inside job. Um, and I
Yeah,
don't
because
think
there is a thing that the more people involved in keeping a secret, the less likely it is to stay a secret.
well, it's the reason why a lot of these things here at the bottom are not secrets anymore, are confirmed. The entire big tobacco thing. How many people are involved in tobacco? How many scientists were involved before somebody would become a whistleblower? The FBI spying on John Lennon, MK Ultra, all this stuff involved thousands of people that eventually somebody was going to come up and say it. Tuskegee, of course, Edward Snowden with the NSA mass surveillance. That one's actually a little more remarkable that did come out because of the control of the information, but all it does is take one whistleblower to really blow the lid on things like these big government programs that are really illegal. So, or at least questionable, very questionable,
Yep.
or both questionable and illegal. So,
Yep.
um,
Now, the interesting side, of course, of it is, play a little devil's advocate here. Um, there is sometimes counter conspiracy uh, propaganda that feeds into the idea that there is a conspiracy. Like if we talk about, what's happening with vaccines, right? There are a lot of people who would say there's a giant cover up to conceal the fact that the vaccines cause heart
playing the
attacks,
part is, yeah, yeah.
or that they put little microchip chips into you that track your movement, or all of this stuff. That right. It's magnetic. After you get the vaccine, you can stick a pin on your arm, right? No, I'm not making that
Oh
up,
no,
folks.
no. Hey,
I
our
know.
our
Oh,
current vice,
sweetheart, you're
the
not
current
telling
vice
me
chair,
anything.
yeah, the
Right.
current vice chair of the party did a video where
Ugh.
he speculated that. So,
Well, here
um,
we go. Actually, watch this. I got this metal pin right here, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to stick it into my arm, and
which
it
side?
sticks there. Look,
I'm
look.
bleeding.
Oh, they really messed up your shot if it was way over there.
No.
Uh,
Well, it's not
no, as
terrible.
a nurse watching that, oh, that was so painful. I remember there was a Zoom call and someone was complaining. Um, so we'll leave the libertarian names out of it to protect the guilty. But he was complaining about watching the politicians getting their shots and celebrities getting their shots. He goes, when they pull the syringe away, there's no needle. And I was like, how many people on this call have given a vaccination? Raise your hand. And out of like 7 of us, I was it. I'm like, all right. So do you know what those are called? Those are called retractable needles. Those are actually for the nurse's safety. I know about these because I worked as a correctional nurse.
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah.
And they were like, you just shut him down. That is amazing. It was like, that's something I can explain. Now, did they really get the vaccine? Was that what's actually in their syringe? No. That I can explain. So I don't know. You pick apart one little fact that they're droning on and on about, and it stops them in their tracks.
Well, but what's interesting about it is that the best of these conspiracy theories have a little bit of truth in them. And again, it's our inability to recognize what is, for example, statistically significant.
Yeah.
Mm.
We talk about the fact of the number of people the number of young athletes who die from heart problems every year in the United States. And it's roughly 100 people, one person every 3 days. Now, if you say it like that, it's actually a seems like it's a big number. But one person every 3 days is nothing compared to the number of people who die from uh, almost any other thing that you can name. Okay, it's so incredibly rare. And like James' comment about the Johnson and Johnson vaccine. Um, the statistical things. There is some stuff out there, and clearly the drug companies have made enormous mistakes. Right? Thalidomide is nothing compared to Vioxx. The
Yeah.
drug companies have killed thousands of people, and for sure they try to suppress the evidence of it.
Yeah.
So it's not
Or
like it's nothing there. Go ahead.
it's not even killing thousands of people with bad drugs, but taking drugs that are good and misapplying them. So, I know a lot of people are having problems getting. There's a diabetic medication that helps people lose weight, but they're prescribing it to really moderately skinny people
Yep.
for minor weight loss. So it's causing a problem with people who are diabetic who need the drug from getting it. Remember Fen? Same thing.
Yep.
It was a weight loss drug that was working phenomenally for morbidly obese people, but then they were prescribing it to women who and men who were very skinny, who wanted to lose like 5 pounds, and that drug was so powerful that at their weight, it was causing heart issues.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
No. Exactly. Like, so for me to get into my wedding dress, I didn't think I was going to make it, and I went to the doctor and I asked him if there was something he could give me, and he's like, "I can't give you anything over the counter, but if you want to go out and get speed, speed will make you lose weight. Start by losing all your teeth." But
Meth is the greatest diet plan there is.
I
Oh,
so I mean, it's interesting because people did use it. Like I knew two girls when I was in college in Austin in the 80s who lost significant amounts of weight on meth. And like they stopped doing it afterwards. Like it was a real weight loss plan for them. Now, I'm not recommending that for anybody, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't
uh
recommend that for anybody at all, ever. No.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's methamphetamines, right? Amphetamines are drugs that are prescribed to people under certain circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I will concede one thing that you said, that there is an element of truth to a lot of these conspiracy theories that you see up on this chart.
Yeah,
I think once you get to that the anti where it says the anti-Semitic point of no return,
right.
those a lot of those are just so fantastical that I think defy any
It's,
logic.
I
Like
mean,
QAnon defies all logic.
QAnon
Flat
defies
Earth,
all logic. The moon landing fake isn't that far. I mean,
it is in technological terms. I think it was far easier for them to get somebody up on the moon to actually than with technology that they had at that point to fake the moon landing.
yeah,
I think you know people will say CGI. CGI wasn't really even invented at that point, so like you can't put it on CGI.
no, but I mean, they
If
could
you
have
look at
easily filmed it in a studio.
You could have, but again, the technology and the things that they tried to play off as proof is every one of those things that they've come out with that is some kind of evidence that the moon landing was fake was is easily explainable as it being on the moon. That's why this happens. Um, for me, the moon landing again, it would be far harder to fake it than it would have been to uh, get people up to the moon.
Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. NASA has said that even the Hubble cannot find evidence of any of the lunar landings. So that seems a little weird to me. Now, truth be told, I believe that we did indeed put men on the moon. They walked around, and I'm pretty sure that Neil Armstrong was the first, Christopher Columbus was the second. Um, but it is weird to me that we can't see anything up there. But I think that we went there. It's just one of those things. We want to recognize patterns. Clearly,
Yeah.
rockets did take off. Okay.
Yes.
People saw rockets take off. There were lots of people in control rooms who believed they were getting telemetry from other places, stuff like that. The number of people who would have to be involved isn't enormous, but it's pretty large.
It's pretty
It's very
large just on the people witnessing the launch itself.
Yeah.
Uh,
right. But just because you witnessed the launch of a rocket doesn't mean you know the astronauts are in there.
sure, sure. Again, I think that television technology at that point would have been far harder to fake all that stuff and then keep it quiet all these years.
Right.
Um, again, yeah, it was a room full of NASA scientists, and yeah, their careers depended on all that stuff. But again, you know, how famous would somebody have been if they came out with conclusive proof that we didn't go to the moon, we faked it, we've been spending billions of dollars on NASA and we didn't do it.
Yep.
Plus the fact going further into the future, we've been doing this with the shuttles, we've been doing this now with private organizations getting up into space as well.
Yep.
It just further confirms it for me.
Except that again, none of them can find any evidence of the moon landings. I'm just
Well, I
saying.
mean, how big would be the evidence of the moon landings on the moon? I mean,
I,
I would think that you could see them, but what if they're in the shadow of a crater or something? Like,
we took a car up there, right? I mean, it's a classic that we drove to that Americans would take a car to a place and drive
sure,
around.
sure,
But we left flags. We left the lunar landers there.
yeah,
Um, it's that's the one thing about it that kills me. I just wish that we'd sent a rover back to the moon and had it drive around and send me back some pictures of those other places. Like, have you
sure,
watched the Good Night Oppie on Disney Channel? It's a
sure,
documentary about the opportunity, the little Mars rover that could, and how it lasted so many years beyond what they thought it would do. And it sent back so much evidence, including evidence of the other rovers, things like that. That was awesome. I just wish we'd sent somebody back. I'm glad, we're going to go back to the moon. We go back to
yeah,
the moon, we friggin' see that other stuff though, just to
yeah,
put all this to bed.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's talk about some of these conspiracy theories that are at the top.
Right.
We did talk about the moon landing. That to me, the QAnon is the funniest one of them all, but it's also the most dangerous one.
Definitely the most dangerous.
What
Yeah.
exactly does QAnon encompass? Because I mean, it's
So,
all of those, right? Pizzagate is a QAnon.
yeah, a lot of the adrenochrome and all that stuff, all that kind of wraps up into it. It's a conspiracy that there's a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic, sexual abusers of children that operate this global child sex trafficking ring, um, and that Donald Trump was fighting against it. And you know, there's things like the Pizzagate, where this pizza place in Washington, D.C. was apparently the headquarters where they'd take these children to and train them of this stuff called adrenochrome, and it would, make all these politicians and world leaders younger, and it's this just even talking about it, it's embarrassing to talk about. Like
Right.
Thank
I
you.
feel dumb just saying this stuff. But the stuff that came out after Trump lost and how the conspiracy from QAnon was that Donald Trump was going to be restored to power when John F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a plane accident in the late 90s, um, was going to come to Washington on this stallion made of crystals and magically reinstall Donald Trump. No one ever explained it. Like the My Pillow dude would say, it's going to happen this day. The QAnon dude would say it's going to happen this day, and it never happened. Like they just keep. It's like the guys that predict the end of the earth, and the date's going to come, the date's going to come, and it comes, and nothing happens.
Right.
So, or Who knows? Maybe the Earth is already over. We're just kind of spinning into infinity. We
Yep.
we did end the Earth in 2012.
Right. That is the big conspiracy.
Yeah.
The Earth is
We're
actually
already
over. We don't know about it because people are concealing that from us, which are all actually dead.
Sounds like something from a Bible. Yes, James, doesn't it? Isn't that cute? So,
Yeah,
question is adrenochrome, does that have to do with the adrenal glands?
I
Because I
guess so.
see cases for adrenal stuff all day, and I've never heard of adrenochrome.
Yeah,
Oddly enough.
I guess so. There's it's something they extract from young people, children,
Okay.
and in these weird satanic, cannibalistic sex orgy parties that all these elites are supposed to be having. Um, that the adrenochrome is passed around and renews them, and it kind of feeds also into this reptilian overlord bullshit too.
What do
Um,
they do with it? Once they what do they
I don't know if they
ingest it? Do
smoke
they, like
it. Yeah, I don't know if they smoke it, they inject it, they rip lines off of strippers' asses. I have no idea.
I
But,
mean, that would be the way to go, right? Like, if you're gonna
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go whole hog, like the line off the
yeah.
ass.
It's interesting though because like I see in there cultural Marxism. Now, I mean, I think that there is such a thing as cultural Marxism, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who make an argument that I mean, especially now, we see Chat GPT stepping up, right?
Yeah,
They're talking about the end of doctors in 20 years. There aren't going to be any doctors who can diagnose patients as well as AI. There aren't going to be any surgeons who can perform as well as a robot surgeon. Knowledge workers, a lot of knowledge workers are going to go away. I know as a nurse, you're like, yeah, serves them right. They're still going to need
Actually,
nurses.
no, I that's a nightmare. I
Well,
have medical issues. I want the people that I trust.
I
Sorry.
mean, there will be a market out there if you want to go to a human doctor, but it's going to be like truck drivers, right? People are like, oh no, I want human truck drivers. The fact of the matter is, human truck drivers kill 30,000 people a year. They kill more people on truck driver error, kill way more people than guns. It's incredibly dangerous. Doctors, medical error, right, kills so many people. It kills more people than guns. Um, and machines just won't do that. I
but
mean,
then
machine.
there are things with we'll get more into the Chat GPT here in a little bit, but the idea that um, we would hand over, especially when we got into the debate during the ADA stuff, where it was like, well, there will be death panels, like they'll decide that you're not just not worth living.
Right.
So what about AI? AI takes a look at your diagnosis and says, yeah, you're just not worth living. We're not going to do the surgery because
You have
we're
an
AI. We're
86% chance
yeah,
of
yeah.
survival, so, whew.
Right.
It
I
becomes
mean,
Well,
that's
risk or something.
that's a different sort of thing that we're talking about. We're not talking about decision making being made by machines because machines can't really make decisions. We're talking about
ultimately,
machines doing
no.
things. And in terms of, looking at like one of my favorite medical dramas and one of most medical professions' worst medical dramas is House
Mm,
because, House pulls all this stuff out of his ass. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
But if you watch, I have a guy I watch, Dr. Mike, does reaction videos. Fascinating character. But he talks about the fact he's like, this is terrible because House is like missing all of the really obvious things that he should eliminate first. And the old saying of when you hear hoofs, think horses, not zebras.
No zebras.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And
It's basically Occam's razor. And that's for me, a lot of the things with conspiracy theories is Occam's razor. The simplest
mhm,
explanation is the one that's probably what happened.
There's an excellent book I would recommend to people called How to Play with Your Food by Penn and Teller. And they reveal the secret of a lot of magic tricks. And one of the things they say all the time is that almost all the magic tricks that you see where there's like people who like make sure that the trick is not fake, those people are conspirators. They're in on it. They make sure that the trick is fake. And so why
Yeah.
not believe that? If that's the most obvious answer, why not just believe that everybody's trying to fool you? And that again, it's a conspiracy.
It is, but I don't know about the cultural Marxism one. That one, there are some here in this list, and I'll point out there's one in the middle list, the science denial list, I guess, or no, that's the one that's above that. But the leaving reality. Uh, my wife used to work for Mattress Firm, and it's there at the bottom. I actually had to look up this conspiracy theory because it was hilarious to me. Like I didn't realize that this corporation that my wife used to work for, that I hate personally,
Yeah.
um, was in a conspiracy. So apparently the thing with Mattress Firm is that um, you could go in a city and sometimes see like mattress firms right across the street from each other. They're almost like like Starbucks in Arlington or Dunkin' up in Massachusetts. They were just so ridiculously located. And for like Dunkin' and Starbucks, you could probably get away with having stores that close together because they're rather low end retail.
Right.
But mattresses are fairly high end retail, and it doesn't make sense to have like a 5,000 square foot store on one side of the street and a 3,000 square foot store on the other side of the street. So there was a lot of conspiracy theories that emerged about Mattress Firm that it was some kind of front for drugs or money laundering or something along those lines. And they did have some leadership within the company that did kind of do some shady things and get arrested for that stuff, but it wasn't really related to this. What Mattress Firm did was um, they would move into a market, and within a year or two, they would try and buy out their competition. So they would move into the market, put a store close to their old competition store. They buy the competition out eventually, and rebrand the store that's across the street with their brand. And then after a while, once the lease for that store would go out, they would choose which store they would keep, their the original store for them or the original store for their competitor, and then close up the other store. But people seeing these stores, there was like one of the big ones that they pointed out was like within a 3 mile radius in Indiana, there were like 4 Mattress Firm stores, just ridiculous number of Mattress Firm stores. So while I wouldn't have been mad to see this be a true conspiracy theory of money laundering or drug running or whatever, Mattress Firm is definitely not a. It's just a badly run company. So, um, but yeah, that's the Mattress Firm one. Some of these other ones, 5G on the second level.
Yeah, that one's crazy.
What are this supposed to do to us?
So 5G was part of it is the idea that these 5G towers are just pumping in these radio waves into us 24/7, and it's
And cause
causing cancers and all kinds of stuff. And then there was the conspiracy at the beginning of the COVID thing that was that COVID was being spread by 5G, or the deadliness was being enhanced by 5G. Um, uh, we've been going through 4G, we've been going through 3G, every time we do another G, it seems that we get this conspiracy popping up. But yeah, 5G is an interesting one that um, I think as more people get into 5G coverage with their cell phone plans. I actually don't have it here in West Virginia, but uh, as I go into DC, I get it. People are saying that it's just cell phone coverage.
Yeah,
There's nothing nefarious about it.
I'm
Um,
glad I missed that one.
yeah, COVID-19 made in a lab. What are your thoughts on that one? Because there
COVID
are, I
19.
mean, yeah, COVID-19
Go
made in a
ahead.
lab. That's in the second one. So, there have been biological weapons made before. We
Sure.
make anthrax, we make ricin. Uh,
We have definitely
there,
tried to weaponize polio and other
yeah,
viruses.
oh yeah. I mean, biological warfare is not a new thing. I mean, they
Right.
tried to fire, put
We
bubonic
what
plague
those
video.
tractors It was
Yeah, well,
practiced against Native Americans, right? They brought blankets with smallpox on them and gave them to Native Americans in trade, knowing that the Native Americans didn't have the immunity to smallpox.
oh yeah, well, and the use of bubonic plague victims fired on trebuchets into towns that they were laying siege to. Like there's been the use of
Yep.
biological weaponry for a long time. This one does kind of play into that. It's plausible,
Yeah.
um, but there are to me there are things that there are so many bugs and things like that. It is amazing that we did go almost 100 years between major pandemics.
Yeah, I mean, hygiene's a lot better. Remember that one of
Mhm.
the things about it is that before before the H1N1, which not referring to as the Spanish flu anymore,
Yeah.
there weren't water fountains. There were water stations with metal cups attached to them. And people would come up and drink out of the metal cup and then leave it there. And the next person would come up and also drink out of the same metal cup.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy hygiene stuff. And you think about where we are now, even before COVID came, we were such a hands-free society, right? We got rid of paper in bathrooms. You dry your hands with air and you don't touch the sinks anymore. So, I mean, we got pretty far along the way. But here's the thing is that there's like a bunch of COVID conspiracies that are against each other because some people say COVID-19 is made in a lab. There's also conspiracy that COVID isn't real.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yep.
are those conspiracy people fighting each other?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, no, go
we
ahead.
put them in one of the domes and be like, duke it out. Could we do that? They could have
Yeah.
like an epic rap battle. Oh, come on, y'all. I think we can make it happen.
A
Yep.
celebrity death match, something like that. Yeah, that'd be
Hate
awesome.
match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, for me, I think the whole thing with conspiracy theories is it is our way of trying to find meaning in this world, assign blame, because a lot of this stuff is things that are going wrong in the world. So we're trying to assign blame to these issues, whether it's my life sucks because I underemployed and don't have a great life. Well, it's got to be this global cabal of people that are controlling the world, controlling the banks, and are here to make my life miserable. And this
Yep.
guy Donald Trump is trying to make the world better by getting rid of these people. So they buy into the QAnon, or the
Right.
15
I
years ago
wouldn't
was
have to
basically
be
the new world order and things like that.
I wouldn't have to be involuntarily celibate if you know, I didn't people want me to bathe all the time and have social conversations
I
Oh,
and right. I mean, right. That's another one of those crazy conspiracy theories that
Oh yeah.
wow.
I'm telling you that the one thing that people say, the incels, there is nothing involuntary about that. They're just not doing the things that it's the survival of the fittest and the survival of doing things to attract a mate, and they're not doing that, and that's why they're celibate. It's not involuntary. There's ways to address the issues that you've got to make yourself a more desirable person. And if you're not going to do that, well, there's your hand.
well, exactly, and right, exactly. People don't understand what a relationship is really supposed to be, and so they don't have the skills to create one or maintain one, and it's ridiculous. But I do think that there is there's a very weird little space in there of like, there was a point in time where like people were forbidden by class from dating other people, stuff like that. And so that's what they're going back to is they're saying, oh, it's like when, we weren't allowed to, marry commoners or something like that. And so they're like, I don't know, they're blaming Jane Austen for their, their involuntary celibacy.
Well, y'all should have never taught us to read. I'm telling you, that's what happened. You
Books.
taught
Who
us to
gave us any
read.
Oh, Dave gave
Yes,
me.
Yeah.
surrounded by books.
Yeah.
No, I've okay.
I
I
like
Yep.
have
my
been a
women
single
into
lady for a minute now, like a
Yep.
decade. I've had a
Yep.
lot of dates, and these guys, like, I didn't realize at the time that they belonged to this club, because, you meet online or whatever it is, and you have these terribly awkward dates where they sit there and tell you that they're really not attracted to women that do this or don't do that or, can't cook or because can't cook. I can do some damn fine dishes, but I cannot cook. Things like I don't care
Yeah.
what I don't care. Like never in my life have I Googled what do men want. Nope. It
I
just
mean,
hasn't been a
I don't think you
thing.
need
I'm
Google for that
sorry.
answer.
Um, like I don't know. It's very funny to me because they reveal themselves so quickly,
Yeah.
so quickly. It's just like, ew, that's just the cringiest shit ever.
And the
You
fact
said
that,
that out loud. Does your mama know you said that out loud? Like,
well, and that they don't seem to learn,
no.
oh
right?
no.
I mean, that part of it is, I mean, maybe that's what the conspiracy is. Maybe the really reasonable guys are out there putting these guys to be assholes so that the reasonable guys will seem so much more reasonable when they encounter them. They're like,
Lower
exactly.
that bar.
It's exactly. It's a false flag. Uh,
There we go. Oh my
Oh
goodness. We
no, no,
found a
no,
new
no. These guys are red flags. Like they are walking red flags. And usually they also subscribe to the QAnon shit too, because
yeah.
throw a little Southern bullshit on it. And that's dating.
well,
It is interesting too. If we were going to say, is there a geographical region that is more inclined to conspiracy theories? I think we would have to say it's the South.
You think we have more?
I do. I mean, I think about uh like conspiracy theories in Massachusetts when I lived there. I mean, they all that there is, the curse of the Bambino, but that's not really a conspiracy theory, right? It's not saying that, oh, we think there's a bunch of people who are making the Red Sox lose. We think it's the ghost of Babe Ruth. So
I
Uh,
would
as
put
someone
the West out
surrounded
there
by
too.
Trumpers, yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
would put the West
I
out there too
agree.
because the West is very non-trusting as well, especially of government. So
yeah,
I knew there are quite a few people out in the West that will subscribe to conspiracy theories as well, just because there is a general lack of trust of government out there. So some of these more governmental related conspiracy theories are much hit much more home in those areas.
right.
Um,
The flat earther thing, Janice brought it up. There aren't really people who believe that.
oh no, there are.
I
Well,
mean,
I
There's
mean,
people that will fight
maybe they
you.
are acting. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, there was probably like a 4-year period on Facebook where eh, I would post like maybe 2 or 3 times a year saying the Earth is round, or I post the meme where the Flat Earth Society of someplace said that we have members all around the world,
All around.
right, exactly.
and I would just wait because within 20 minutes there'd be like 4 or 5 people on my thread like, you don't believe in ball Earth, do you? And like, and you're unfollowed and you're you're blocked and you're like,
Like how do they explain all the obvious
oh
things?
my god, they do. But I mean, they have not rational, but they do
Right.
have explanations about
You
all
know,
this stuff. Like the reason why you can't see the edge of the Earth is because of water mountains. If
you know,
you
it is interesting. I had a long conversation today with a friend of mine who is a hardcore social conservative.
Mhm.
Nice guy, we're friends. Uh, but uh, one of the things that he talked about was like he believes that there is a conspiracy of people who are promoting the LGBT lifestyle. And I'm like, what do you mean by promoting? Right? Because if you're telling people that it's okay to be gay, you don't have to be unhappy if that's your lifestyle, that's not promoting it. I don't think that there are gay people who are out there evangelizing for gayness in the same way that there are Christians evangelizing for, save your life, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's a lot of people like that. Have you heard the good news?
They were at my house this past week.
Exactly. So, but there's lots of that happening. But I have never heard a
RuPaul
gay
loves
person,
you and wants you to be happy.
right? But I've never heard a gay person saying, you know what, you should be gay. If you become gay, your soul will be saved. Any of that stuff, right? So it's not like there's people who are out there, and so I think
I
a
would
lot of
actually invite
people,
them in. Like if they showed up at my door and said, "Have you heard the good word about the book of Brokeback
Elton
Mountain?"
John.
Hell
Yeah.
yes, let's come on in, man. Have a beer. Let's do this.
no, I mean, I think it's. Have you heard the good news? And the good news is that Jesus died for your sins. Now, you want to talk about a conspiracy, because I mean, there we go, right? I mean, we're going to talk about something about that because a conspiracy involves faith. None of us know for certain what actually happened around that time. And so, I don't know what happened, but if you want to talk about, a large group of people leaving, and, our culture is less religious than any previous culture, right? We are more skeptical. There's not a lot of people who think that, you know, I don't know a lot of people who truly believe in the Christian story of Jesus rising from the dead and giving his life because that's what his dad wanted. Um, and yet, exactly.
I was.
Um,
I was.
well, so right here's the real conspiracy. Dave is Jesus.
No, I was one of the dudes with the nails. I was like, he was like screaming, "Not the other hand! Not the other hand!"
Yep, yep. There's Jesus walks into a hotel, and walks up to the front desk. The manager says, "Can I help you?" Puts down 3 nails. He says, "Hey, can you put me up for the night?" Sorry. um,
Stand up.
Oh Lord.
exactly. But in many ways, that's what you're dealing with, right? Most religions really actually are giant conspiracy theories. The question is, how harmful are they to people? And if you have yeah, you're right. I'm glad you got it, James. There's another great one of Buddha walks up to a hot dog vendor. He says, "Hey, can you make me one with everything?" Dum dum.
Damn.
um,
Oh my
so,
goodness.
but in many ways, what differentiates a religion from a conspiracy theory?
Followers, I guess.
Yeah. Well, not even that, because I mean, like, look at QAnon. QAnon to me is like a cult, and
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you know, I'm not going to go in and insult every major religion, saying you're a conspiracy and a cult,
I'm
but
going down a list of major religions. I'll get to them all.
there you go.
Right.
I get my channel yanked, I think.
Let's tick them all off tonight, like they
Uh,
said.
well, let me tell you this about the Zoroastrians. They're about to have the Zoroastrians handed to them.
Oh
Sorry.
no. You're fired if you know Zoroastrianism. All right. So, first, I guess the biggest takeaway with conspiracy theories is, yes, you should be cynical when it comes to what the government is telling you and what the real story is, but don't let it consume you. Like, be cynical, but also be cynical about people who are pushing these ideologies of conspiracy theories, because as you can see with that chart, there are plausible, and even as you go up that chart, there is an element of truth to what's going on in some of that stuff, and history behind some of that stuff. But the further you go, the deeper you go, your life becomes all consumed by this stuff, and all of a sudden you're going to start talking about uh, John F. Kennedy Jr. riding into Dallas and reinstalling Trump as president. And you're going to say that makes sense. And by that point, you're far too gone. So just be cynical, but be cynical about both sides. Don't just fall for, the government is evil. And the government, to me, a lot of times with the government stuff is I make a lot of times saying that the government is inept at what it does.
Right.
And
You would know. You work
for
for
them
them.
to pull some of this stuff off that you're telling me, they'd have to be really, really, really good.
Right.
And, you know, yeah, Tuskegee happened and NSA surveillance, but, I don't think 9/11 was an inside job. You can't convince me of that.
Yeah. And the other thing about it is that it's worth people thinking about, what can I actually prove, right? What part of these things is about it? And, we're talking about religion. Here's the thing, like, if you question some element of a religion, that's actually a crime in that religion. It's called blasphemy, right? That word specifically means something. Um, but in a conspiracy theory, it's not a religion, so you should be able to question some of the basic tenets. And when people get mad at you for questioning the basic tenets, then you're like, you know what? This isn't anything that's based on anything scientific or anything. It's just another religion or a cult or anything like that. When you don't get to ask questions, because a lot of times when people say, oh, one of the conspiracies that's going on is the government is suppressing uh, COVID information.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. There's some stuff that came out recently that said that the government might have been involved in some of that. But
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised in that.
yeah,
I think to get people to comply with some of the stupid stuff that they did, because yeah, the government did dumb shit during the whole COVID stuff.
yeah,
Um, to get
Yes.
people to comply and to kind of justify what they did, I'm sure they did hide some things.
right. Yeah, and that's certainly something that's worth digging into too.
Sure.
The only question about it is going to be, what I mean. First of all, the other thing about it is, we do want to say to people who are involved in these giant conspiracies of wrongdoing shit, come on, come on.
Yeah.
We need people to be a little more reasonable about stuff too. Anyway, that's my
Yep.
2 cents on
So,
conspiracy.
we talked about FT. Is there any other conspiracy theory that you think is plausible that is kind of popular?
Mm.
Here's one of my conspiracy theories. I think cats are aliens. I sincerely think that cats were dropped off on our planet to acquaint us with their colonization techniques by being incredibly cute. But if you've ever seen, like, when people talk about getting abducted by aliens, they draw the alien and the alien head. If you look at the alien head, if you draw two pointy ears on top of it, it's a cat head. I'm telling you, it's a cat head, big eyes. I'm telling you, cats are aliens. When time comes for us to be beamed up to their planet to be their slaves, it's going to be at a covered trip.
Oh, I hope Sophie does something wonderful for you.
Yeah, I hope she speaks well to me. Although I think
Uh,
I corporal cuddled her tonight, and I think I'm probably going to go to the salt mines.
I,
There's
I
a
do
whole,
wonder if we're all living in reality TV because ever since Trump, things have just been so strange, so strange, so much every day. I don't know. It just feels like scripted, like badly scripted reality TV. Like it's kind of obvious in places sometimes.
Sure.
It's like, you know, it just
yeah,
all feels very, very strange.
When
Everybody
you
it
else
don't,
is.
is paying more attention.
yeah, when you don't think the news can get stupider, it absolutely
Right.
like
Like,
right there.
yay happens, or like
I, you know, you
George
know,
Santos. Like, what in the actual shit is that?
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
Although, the biggest conspiracy of all that we should talk about, and we know that it's real, is friggin' ballot access. That's
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
Oh
People who
yeah.
don't know, and I agree, they were preaching mostly to the choir here, but uh, for example, when my friend Tara DeSisto came to work at LPHQ, she was coming from traditional politics. She had worked for Republicans and Democrats. And when she found out how hard it was for libertarians to get on the ballot, she's like, oh my God, I have no idea. It's baffling. And it really is. And that is a real conspiracy, right? Government
Yeah.
itself, how hard it is to break into government, that is a huge conspiracy. And it's completely true. And most people accept it as being the way things have to be.
Oh,
That's the
if
craziest
they
thing.
know about it, even I mean, for the most part, people don't even know that it's hard to get ballot access. They just think that it's
Right.
Republican and Democrat. Like a lot of people don't even know what the Libertarian Party
Like,
is. They don't know what the Green
You know,
Party.
it's funny. There is a guy you guys probably know by reputation on Facebook. His name is Frank Robinson.
Mhm.
He is the last living member uh, of the founders of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
And for years, I thought he was just some crazy old coot until I finally understood what he actually wants. And all he wants is every election to be a blank ballot. And you write in the name of the person you want to vote for. Make every election a write in. Because then there is no ballot access, right? You can write in whoever the heck you want.
Yeah.
It's a great, brilliant idea. I like everything about it. You're going to say people have bad handwriting or something like that. You know what? Type in.
Sure.
Type in the name of the candidate you want. Copy and paste it from somewhere else. That's fine with me. But make no names on the ballot. You have to come in with the name that you want and enter it in. Get rid of ballot access. Things would change enormously.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
is.
failing that, I would get rid of partisan
Yep.
races. Like everything be an independent candidate.
Yeah. Or not allow people to print partisan things on the ballot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I actually have. I want like the ballot to be like a word hunt. I want to put like 30 names on there, and you circle the person you want to vote for. Most of the names will be fake.
Oh,
Yeah. Fake
God.
names. Nice.
Uh,
All right. You guys ready
Oh,
for
I have
the?
voted no to I have voted no to
Yeah.
the last election we had. I voted
Yeah.
no to on 2 different categories.
Sad thing is
Uh,
with NOTA for and writing in names in a lot of jurisdictions now, you have to be a registered write-in candidate for it to be counted. So, um, you know, I've jokingly said, if you don't have a candidate to vote for in an election, you can always write in Dave's hairy balls to any race that you would like to have represented by somebody that rather than the choices you've been given. But you can do that as many times as you want, and they won't count it unless you're an official write-in candidate in many jurisdictions.
oh,
yeah, I
I
think it
think
depends on where you are.
Yeah,
And you've heard my little speech as somebody who's a poll worker that at least in Massachusetts, where they have to count everything, uh, you're making a lot of work for people who just want to go home at the end of the night. But there is a thing that just occurred to me. You know, how, like a lot of libertarians legally change their name to something like Freeman
yeah.
or something like that. I could change my name to Noda, run for chair.
Nice. There you
That would be
go.
very
there
funny.
Yeah.
you go.
All right, y'all ready for
Oh,
the news quiz?
Yes, please.
You
I
are
guess we'll
ready?
see.
All right. I'm not ready for the news quiz, but we'll do it anyway.
Okay, it's
All right,
those
the five
people
weekly
and
five
some
things weekly
sports
news.
people.
Yeah, that was President Biden with the State Warriors. That's TikTok. That's Microsoft. There are big layoffs there. Yeah.
Yeah, that
So,
Golden State Warriors thing. Trump wouldn't have the basketball players in when he was president because he was
well,
afraid
I
they were
don't
going
think
to
Because he was a what?
afraid they were going to steal things.
I don't think the basketball players were too keen on going to the White House anyway. So,
Right.
all right, temperatures in the world's coldest city plunged to negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit this week. Which city holds the title of the coldest? And I read this story, so I know who it is.
Yaznayu.
It is so the choices are Yakutsk, Russia, Yellowknife, Canada, Anchorage, Alaska, or Duluth, Minnesota.
Yellowknife, Canada, but yeah, it's Alaska.
No,
Sorry, Yakutsk.
yeah, Yakutsk.
There's a great show about it. But you just search on YouTube, you can see people spending days in Yakutsk when it's super cold. That's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
eyelashes freeze off
Yep.
within a few minutes. Yeah, it's
I
pretty
watched
brutal.
a guy do a polar bear plunge there at like 40 below. It was
Oh,
pretty crazy.
That
one of
is
we've
a
had we've had her on the show, Christine Kessler Womack. She did the polar plunge in Pennsylvania this weekend. Um, it was cold, but it was anywhere
Not
near
40
negative.
below.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Could imagine doing that. So yeah, Yakutsk got -80. All
Yep.
right, question number 2: which national holiday was celebrated this week?
I'd like to point out that only
Columbus,
3 of those are
Labor,
national holidays.
Labor Day, Veterans Day, and Martin Luther King Day.
AJ knows.
well, we discussed it last week, so Martin Luther King Day.
Exactly. Well, Columbus Day isn't a national holiday anymore, right?
Is it
No, there's
Indigenous Peoples Day?
Indigenous Peoples Day, and some places just don't recognize it. So,
And it's usually around my birthday because if I get a birthday check, Columbus Day will screw it up and I'll have to wait an extra day.
oh,
I
It's happened
in
so many times in my life.
I used to always hike to the top of Mount Monadnock on Columbus Day. It's an awesome thing to do. Second most hiked mountain in the world. Um, if you haven't seen, I don't know about uh, how many people have watched Blackish, but I recommend it. Good, funny show.
mhm.
Talked about a lot of issues. The Juneteenth episode, they write a song about how terrible Columbus really was, how he was a slaver, and all this other stuff. Worth it if you haven't seen it, if you're not familiar with that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good show. Question number 3: a deadly plane crash recently occurred in which South Asian country? Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, or India?
I know.
I know. What
I
does the
know.
crowd say?
What do you think, crowd? You should know this. Come on,
What does
James.
the crowd? Oh, we've got Big Hairy Nepal.
James says napalm. He's right. You're right, James.
Yes, you are right, James. Good job. Yeah, a Yeti Airlines flight 691 crashed in Nepal because they were carrying a Yeti, I believe.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, why would you name your airline after the abominable snowman?
I don't
That guy
know.
lives in the mountains.
Yeah, I don't know, but
And
yeah, 72
interesting
people
because
on board.
there's footage, right, of them crashing, taken
Yeah,
from somebody on board with a cell phone.
yeah,
Oh my
filming it.
gosh.
Yeah,
Pretty crazy.
it's sad.
Ugh.
Yep.
All right. Question number 4: which major sports tournament is currently underway? Australian Open, Wimbledon, FIFA World Cup, or Tour de France?
Poor shrimp on the bobby, mate.
Was that an Australian accent?
That was an Australian accent.
Mm,
Good on you.
mm. But yeah, it is Australian Open. Tennis greats from around the world are facing off at the Australian Open. It's a major upset this week. 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal was knocked out in the second round by an American. So, yay, Americans.
You know, Nadal is the winningest tennis player of all time in terms of Grand Slam titles.
Titles? Okay. I was thinking maybe Federer would be that as well, but
No, I
So
mean
until the
Federer's
caption, I
pretty
didn't know
much
we were talking tennis.
done.
oh yeah, he
Nadal,
is done now.
yeah, Nadal is one ahead of him, and he's probably got a couple years left.
Although I think
Very interesting. Now,
his his issue this week was a back issue, though.
it should be pointed out that that's men, of course.
Yes.
If you go to
Uh,
women, I'm pretty sure it's Margaret Court.
yes.
It's the winningest female player of all times.
The winningness. I love that word.
Have you seen? All right, let's answer this one first, and I'll come back.
All right, question number 5. How many U.S. states have taken action to restrict TikTok on government devices? 3, 10, 16, or 31?
I'm going to
I
say
don't
How
know.
30.
many Republican-led states are there in the United States?
There's more than 25. It's probably 31, but I don't think that every Republican state has done it.
I
Yeah,
have no idea. I'm guessing.
I'm
Craig
thinking
says
16 as well. We
Craig and
got
James
James.
both say 16. 16 is also the day of the month I was born on, and it's 2 to the 4th. So
Yes. There you go.
I agree with AJ. 2 to the
There we
4th.
Oh,
AJ, come on.
31 states.
31, that is. That's what, and so you were right, AJ. It was the number of Republican states.
You done messed up,
Crazy.
A-Rod.
Oh, no, it says both Republican and Democrat.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a cost lever amongst everyone to ban TikTok because it is a Chinese-owned company. It's a little bit of a red scare to me. Like TikTok
Well,
is
What
TikTok
is
is
it
essentially
that
harmless.
they think is so important? I
Yeah.
mean, they think that it's going to steal your photos. I've been sending Deng Xiaoping pictures of my junk for the last 8 years.
I thought Deng Xiaoping was already dead. That would be hard.
He is. Sorry, Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping, yes. All right. Question number
Fucker
6.
never writes me back either.
Question number 6. Which major tech company announced 10,000 job cuts this week? Apple, Twitter, Microsoft, or Uber?
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Yep, it was Microsoft. Latest tech company to announce reduction of staff because of growing economic uncertainty. Job cuts represent about 5% of the company's total workforce, according to Microsoft
I
CEO
just want to say,
Satya
Dave,
Nadella.
you're in tech, kind of like me.
Yeah.
Do you know any engineers who've gotten laid off? I know a lot of like HR people and people who do peripheral shit around the office, marketing and sales and stuff like that.
I mean, the only program tech guys that I think have been laid off are the Twitter ones.
Yeah, and they were like, I mean, they're trying to get them back.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yep.
Oops.
Talked about this a moment ago. Which professional sports team was invited to the White House this week? Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics, Los Angeles Rams, or Buffalo Bills? Why would you?
Since we said it, Armani, you got to get it.
Wasn't it Warriors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Warriors.
Like it's been a minute. We've talked about 7 things since then.
Yep.
Awesome. Why would you invite the Buffalo Bills? They have never won anything.
They've
I
won
wouldn't
4
vote.
AFC championships.
I mean,
I'm bitter about that game. So
They have won
You're-
4 Lamar Hunt trophies.
they have. They did win an AFL championship back in the day, but they have not won anything since.
Right.
Let's see. Question number 8. Which country's prime minister unexpectedly announced that she would resign within weeks?
That's too easy. Dave, I want you to tell me what her name is.
Jacinda Ardern.
Yes. Good job. All right.
Yeah.
What country is it?
It is the Kiwi state of Norway.
oh, she looks sad.
Of New Zealand. I was looking
Right.
at Norway when I said that. But yeah, Jacinda Ardern said that she's stepping down. A world leader who is much more popular internationally than she is domestically right now, and primarily because of her responses to COVID. She locked down the country for quite a while, and people are starting to kind of rebel on on her model of managing the state. So she resigned. She cited burnout, which I get. It had to have been a long run for her with the COVID and all this stuff. She was able to win re-election, but she's turning over a party that's probably going to lose the next election.
They just had I want to say a year ago, they had a small little outbreak and she locked the entire country down again.
Yep.
And people are like, come on, this is bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I will say New Zealand has legalized sex work. It's not perfect. It's within the context of brothels which
Yeah.
are regulated by the government. However, when they legalized sex work, trafficking around sex work went to zero, which is pretty impressive.
Yep.
But
That's
that
why
happened
we
before.
we legalized in the United States, but that's a story for another day. Question number
Hmm.
9: which U.S. state's governor is pushing to permanently ban the coronavirus vaccine mandates? Florida, Alabama, Texas, or Georgia?
Can we just say America's penis?
Yeah, this sounds like something that the Satan would say.
Yep.
Ron
Yeah.
DeSantis. Yes, amid rising
Ah,
COVID-19 cases across the U.S., Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing to permanently ban coronavirus vaccine and face mask mandates,
Yep.
um, to boost his profile for 2024.
also
I
wants to
mean,
It doesn't
prevent.
say that there, but that's exactly why he did it. All right, which superstar singer announced a new world tour this week? Celine Dion, Madonna, Rihanna, or Elton John?
Elton John's retiring, so I'm going to say it's not him.
Nope.
Rihanna's playing the Super Bowl, so that would seem
Yes.
like a fortuitous thing to do. Um,
Celine
wh-
Dion's sick.
Yeah,
is she
she's
sick?
sick. Yeah, she's got some
Mhm.
weird thing that causes like paralysis of like facial muscles and things like that.
Interesting.
She's
That's too bad.
yeah. It's actually Madonna. I saw the story earlier this week.
Wow.
Well, that's
Shake It Till It
something.
Falls Off tour.
Mhm.
Yeah. So 9 out of 10 once
That's
again.
not bad.
Not bad.
We would have done better if James hadn't screwed us.
Yeah, it's at 16. This
Yep.
isn't Matt Get's girlfriend age.
Exactly. Um, the material girl is correct.
Yes.
So, Bob Barr, Bill Burr, Bill Burr,
Bill Burr,
Bill
the
Burr.
comedian.
thank you, the comedian.
Yes.
Bob Barr is the former Attorney General. Bill Burr has a bit out right now where he's talking about, because we were talking about athletes, about women wanting to be paid as much as men. And he makes a very interesting point because there are some sports where soccer, tennis, you can certainly make an argument for national teams, Davis Cup, national teams playing abroad. Everybody should be paid the same way.
Yeah.
But he made me aware of something that I was not aware of, that the WNBA loses $7 billion a year.
Oh yeah. It's
That is
completely
insane to me.
yeah, it's
And the
completely
NBA just pays for that.
yeah. NBA pays for it, which is cool. I'm glad that they've got a league that hopefully at one point can stand on its own and be profitable and get more people into women's sports. I'm not a fan of the WNBA by any stretch of the imagination, but there are women's sports that I love watching.
I
Um,
love women's soccer.
I
I think it's
love
fantastic.
women's soccer. I love volleyball. I love um, women's hockey. Those sports are phenomenal, and I wish
Yeah.
they had more play on TV rather than ESPN just kind of forcing us to watch the WNBA. Like there are
Yeah.
better women's sports out there, at least more entertaining women's sports that are uh, much more comparable to the men's sports than the WNBA is to the NBA by
Yeah.
any imagination. But I'm glad that the NBA is financing it. I would, and the NHL is financing a league in
Oh, are they?
the Northeast. Yeah, there's I can't remember what it is, but there's probably about 6 teams. There's one in Hartford. There's one in Buffalo. There's one in
Tell me the
Boston.
Hartford team is the Whalers.
Or no, they're not in Hartford. Yeah, they're in Hartford, but they're the Connecticut Whalers or something like that.
Cool.
Um, the but it's the Buffalo Buttes. I can't Boston Pride. There's a couple of teams in Canada, one
Hmm.
team in Minnesota. But they're the NHL is footing the bill for that. Like Terry Pegula, who owns the Sabres, owns the Buttes. Um,
Right.
but it's not kind of like a one for one league like they're trying to do with the WNBA. Um, But uh, I don't have a problem with the major leagues financing it, and I don't have a problem with the national teams being an equal pay
Right.
thing. I do have an issue. Like, let's talk about tennis.
Yeah.
There are there used to be differences in prizes of purse because men actually have to play 5 sets in
Right.
their in men's tennis. In women's tennis, they only play 3 sets,
Right.
which I think is sexist. I think if you're gonna if you want to equalize the pay, either make all the men's matches 3 sets or make all the women's matches 5 sets,
Yeah.
to make it more balanced as
Yeah.
far as the pay goes. Because I do think that that's a
You know, it's
you
interesting
can't.
because there was just not just, but a few years ago, John McEnroe, who I'm going to refer to as Mac for the rest of the conversation, uh, Mac
Mm,
made a statement where he said Serena Williams was the greatest female tennis player of all time. And a lot of people jumped all over him for why did you qualify it? Why did you say greatest female tennis player of all time? And he's like, she's not the greatest tennis player of all time, right? I mean, the one time she played a man, she played some guy who was ranked 700th in the world and he beat her 6-0, 6-0. That's not it wasn't a competitive game. And Serena Williams actually was recently on Letterman. Well, not recently, but however long ago Letterman was on. And Letterman sort of took that issue up with her. And because Andy Murray had been trying to get her to play him. Andy Murray, who won Wimbledon,
yeah.
but he's British. So he's not that good at tennis. Um, and, but, Serena Williams she said, look, women's tennis and men's tennis are very different games. It's
They
like,
are.
I played Andy Murray. He would beat me 6-0, 6-love, 6-love. And, I don't want to do that. It's a different sport. And part of the problem is that we get into the space where we want to equate things when in reality, they're just different sports. And one of the things that I love about women's soccer is that there's a lot more off the ball stuff happening. You don't see the dominant players like Messi, who's
Yeah.
just going to dribble through everybody and score.
No,
At
it's a
least
much more team-oriented sport. Yeah.
exactly, and more akin to like the soccer that I played.
But, you can actually make that point with men's and women's basketball is that men's basketball is much more star-oriented like men's soccer is, and women's basketball is much more team-oriented.
Yeah.
Um, not relying on the highlight dunks and all that stuff, that it's really a precision game rather than a, power game.
So uh, Bill Burr's point, though, was at the end, he said, here's the thing, though. People who are complaining about this, and he was referring to Megan Rapinoe's push for equal pay. He's
Mhm.
like, you should blame other women. Women aren't coming to your games to watch them. Because if they did, you'd be getting paid. Right? You could form your own
Sure.
league.
I
All
mean,
that.
yeah, because I mean, women do make up what 51% of the
2%.
population,
Yeah.
2%.
Yeah.
If they showed up let's just say they showed up in the same amount that they showed up to men's sports,
Yeah.
I think that
Exactly.
would make those sports immediately profitable, or at least break even.
Yeah.
Uh, but it also falls on us men to actually go to those sporting events as well, because um,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know
I watch these guys who are Olympic track guys, and none of them are famous, but they medaled, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And these guys, they said, "Look, I would also like to be paid for my athletic endeavors, but the fact of the matter is, it's just not going to happen. I'm
Yeah, they
not
have to
going to
go
make a
overseas.
living running track."
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
they do if they compete overseas in like the Diamond League and things like that, but
right, but it's not. I mean, the market isn't that big. You
No,
certainly don't. You certainly don't make the equivalent of minimum salary for a 2-year veteran in the NFL.
but it also points to like when Brittany Griner came back from Russia, we were saying why is she going over there? She's a professional athlete. That she put herself in that danger, but they don't understand that
Right.
Brittany Griner doesn't make that much playing WNBA.
Yeah.
So she has to go and play in Russia, go play, overseas when the WNBA season ends because they pay phenomenally better than the WNBA, which is counterintuitive, but it is what it
But
is.
fans are showing up there.
Yes.
That's the thing. And there's something to that. I mean, there's a lot of American men who go play overseas as well.
Mhm.
My brother-in-law became friends with an NBA player, Keith Bullard, played for the
Yeah,
Rockets.
I remember his
Really
name.
fascinating guy. And it was interesting because he played on the Rockets team that won the championship in 95, in between the Jordan years. The Rockets won 2 championships.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. I do want to talk about Janice's thing.
Yeah.
But he went and played and he extended his career and he played a long time in Europe. And he talked about the fact that when he was there, and this is again mid-90s, he's like, it was clear the Europeans were coming, that the quality of the game was coming up. But
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, also, European fans will show up to small arenas and pay to watch, what isn't even American high school basketball. And I thought that was a
Yeah.
very interesting comment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So first off, Happy New Year, Chinese New Year this year. We went from what was the year of the tiger. Now we're in the year of the rabbit.
Yep.
But sad news out of sad news out of California. During I'm not sure it was exactly related to the celebrations, but a gunman broke into a dance studio outside of these celebrations are going on in Alhambra, California, I believe is where it was at, or Monterey Park. I'm sorry, Monterey Park, California, and shot 10 people, killed 10 people, several were injured, and then he tried to go to a second dance studio, and I believe that was in Alhambra, and was attacked when he got inside the door and beaten up, had his gun taken away from him. He ran off, um, got away, tried to go to a hospital and get checked out. Um, but people identified him quickly as possibly being involved. So he ran, was eventually cornered by the police in his van, and took his own life. And just a awful way to start the new year and the Chinese New Year. Um, I don't know that it was a hate crime. The person who was involved is Asian as well. Um, but if it was like, were they Chinese as
It's,
well, or were they just another variety of Asian that were attacking people because they were Chinese? I don't know.
I mean, what's weird about it is, like, why would you go to a second dance studio? I don't mean to make light of it, but it's so weird. I mean, it's clearly there's some strange thing going on.
I would think that that's probably more involved in what he was after rather than it being Chinese New Year. I think Chinese New Year uh, knew that there would be more people there. That might be the reason why he showed up.
Maybe there's a cultural thing that I don't know, that
Yeah,
people
yeah,
gather at dance studios because it's a large indoor space
yeah.
and that you can rent it.
But yeah, that was heartbreaking to see. Um, you know, he shot himself. So unless he
We'll
put
never
out
know.
a message, we may never know exactly why he did what he did. But it was really sad.
Yep.
Um, hearing that story this morning. Um, but yeah, Chinese New Year. So Year of the Rabbit. It's probably the rabbit from Monty Python's Holy Grail. They're going to bite our heads off. At
Yep.
least that's the way the things have been going lately.
Yeah.
Is there a rabbit in Donnie Darko?
Yes, it's a giant one-eyed rabbit.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like,
All
stupid
around
90s
me are
bullshit in my
familiar
head.
faces,
It's like,
worn out
what was that
spaces.
movie?
Da-da-da. Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
I think it's his last film.
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's interesting. I rewatched Dirty Dancing the other day, which I hadn't seen in years.
Ready
And
for that duet.
yeah, exactly. Well, what's interesting about it is like, I don't know why, but like, guess mid 80s, maybe it was resentful, whatever. I have to say, looking at it now, unobjectively or objectively, Patrick Swayze is a good looking man. And I just didn't get all that before. Like, I'm like, how could this guy be a star? He's terrible. He's like, weird looking and stuff like that. You know what it was? Is I was mad because like I'd grown to like him from Wolverines
yeah.
and other things like that. I just wanted to see him become a rom-com actor, but Roadhouse. I think of Roadhouse, but
Yeah.
you know what? Dirty Dancing, in retrospect, in my 50s, I can look at that and say, you know what? That was a pretty astonishing movie.
I will tell you,
Yay.
watch Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar.
That
Yeah.
is a fabulous movie. Patrick Swayze is in drag the entire movie, and except for the first like 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And looks phenomenal, like beautiful woman, absolutely beautiful woman. And you would not have known, like, huh?
What was
so-
it?
Well, it's interesting.
John
if you-
Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who doesn't pay
were
taxes?
there. Apparently.
For people, if you liked Dirty Dancing, I can't recommend enough on Netflix. There's a series called Movies We Love and How They Were Made.
Yeah.
And it talks about the making of Dirty Dancing, and that is unbelievable. The woman who wrote it is Baby, and it's just an astonishing story.
Nice. Awesome. You posted a story earlier this week about a program called GPT.
Yeah.
It's an AI program that is kind of turning a lot of things on its head right now. And the article was talking about the future of work, where a lot of the white collar jobs that people do now are going to be vastly reduced.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, so first of all, we should talk a little bit about it from a technical side. The way AI works, the best explanation that I've heard people say is everybody knows what binary is, right? Computer can only choose 1 or 0.
Yep.
However, so it only has 1 or 0, but it has a billion hands. People have probably heard of like Pentium computer running at 3 gigahertz. That means that it's making 3 billion computations a second. Okay. And that's an old processor. They're much faster now. And we're on the verge of quantum computing, which is going to make computers even faster. So what computers do when they look at a scenario that they can understand the rules for, and when I got a CS degree, we wrote an AI program that was tic-tac-toe. And what it did was it mapped out all the possible move combinations for tic-tac-toe. And then at the very bottom of the tree, and right, obviously there's only 9 squares and there's 2 possibilities. So there's I don't know. I can't remember the math formula, but how many different permutations there are on a math board? It's 2 to the 9th, 2, 4, 8, 16, 3, 64, 512 possible combinations. So we mapped out all 512 combinations, and then we filtered them up in a tree. And if the computer won, it assigned a 1 to that tree. And if it lost, it assigned a 0, and we filtered it up. So at any point in time, it says, well, if I go down this tree, there's 300 good scores, and down this tree, there's only 200. So I should go down the 300 tree. And that's essentially how AI works. It's able to look at all these possible combinations. The thing is that now that AI is able to do all these things and it's actually able to play a lot of games in its head, it's become better and better. And you see some of this in humans as well. The last, 10, 15 world poker champions were actually guys who played primarily online. And the reason why was because they'd been able to play so many more games than the people who actually played real poker. They had so much more experience with it. So now computers are able to simulate a lot of things. Surgery, we talked earlier about surgery coming along. 50% of the hysterectomies that are done in the United States right now are done by robots, because robots are so much better at detecting live and dead tissue, and they're able to make much more precise cuts. And that's going to go into a lot of other aspects of surgery where robots are able to go in and be much more precise than humans. Truck driving, all that stuff. But those were all sort of mechanical skills. What's happening now is that robots, AI, is able to look at results from words, from creative processes, and see how people react to them. And sometimes it's reactions that you're not even aware of. Like you could be watching something, and if you're interested in it, you actually will look at it. Your pupils enlarge a little bit when you look at something that you're interested in. And a computer can know all that stuff even better than you can possibly know those things about yourself. And so now it says, well, this worked. I assigned this a good score. And so I know now if I want to make this creative thing, I should do this thing and this thing and this thing. And so computers are really starting to set up. And if you haven't played with Chat GPT, I recommend just looking that up, CHAT GPT, and finding it and asking it a question. I mean, we can get it here right now. I can ask it a question. And we can show the answers on the screen. Let's see, because I have a optimized account. And if I do, we'll have AJ ask it a question, and we'll see what ChatGPT
Why do you do that?
Huh?
Why do you do that?
Dan, I'm hoping you're getting your reference at the bottom here.
Here we go. What question do you want to ask it?
Ask a question about what?
Anything in the world. You can ask it how to make a peach cobbler. Anything.
Why do you think with the 40-hour work week? That's what I want to know. Because that's some crap.
I put in, what do you think of the 40-hour work week? Is that what your question is?
Well, like who came up with it, and can we take it out on them? We take revenge.
All right. Can people read this? Is it big enough?
It's considered a fair amount of time. From who?
It says generally.
Well, I don't like it already.
Yep.
Let's see.
What deserves?
Here's my question about this whole thing and the idea of the impact to work on it. And I do think that we're going to get impact of work on this, because we're actually playing around with it with AI and rules-based processing at my work. But eventually, the impact of work, what happens to those workers? How does it get paid for? Because you're cutting off a chunk of the workforce, especially white collar workers, which have a little bit more money, without causing serious political disruptions.
Yeah. It's interesting because the thing that the socialists say is, and that was a pretty good answer there for AI.
Yeah.
The thing that the socialists say, right? Socialism only means one thing. Doesn't mean social welfare. Doesn't mean free food. Socialism means the government controlling the means of production. And the argument that socialists make for it is that, and they've been making this argument for a long time, as machines step up to take the burden of work from our shoulders, what does that mean for us in a world where we expect to define our value through work, right? If a computer or a robot can do everything that you do better than you, what is your job going to be? And what's it going to be? Like, probably, within 10 years, we're really going to see robots take over. I mean, agriculture is already one man and a computer and some tractors can do the work of 1,000 farmers from 100 years ago. But you're going to see, the next level coming up right now. Like I've seen
Well,
the
ask it.
weed, huh?
Ask it. How long before you take over? I mean, it's sitting right here.
Yeah.
A few years. I need a ETA. When am I
Uh,
no longer needed?
And then
yeah.
there's the other question of, we had the story last year about Google. Was it Google's AI that became? They were thinking that became a little bit sentient,
Yep.
um, to an extent. And at what point does the AI not only take over, but then starts making decisions? You said that earlier that, well, there'll still be this decision making capacity on humans, but if we allow robots or AI to make those decisions in the medical field, saying, hey, we can do this surgery, but there's only a 25% chance that you survive. We'll prioritize a surgery where there's a 75% chance over your surgery. So,
But I mean, again, that's a different question. The one of prioritization of resources is different from production.
mhm.
I think you want humans, and actually, I thought ChatGPT's answer here was pretty exceptional.
Yeah,
Um, the but he's also sugarcoating it for us, right?
a little bit.
Which is, I mean, what he's showing is that actually I've got a great bedside manner, and I can really
If you
put.
have ever fought with a Pyxis machine to get some freaking insulin for your patient, oh my God.
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
that's the fear that I have. It's like,
Well,
no, this is the badge. The badge worked yesterday. Why doesn't the badge work today? Or
yep.
whatever it is. It's insane.
Yep. But it's
Yes,
interesting
Greg.
because talk about the fact that AI is already being used in medical imaging. It's clear that AI is much better at detecting things in medical imaging than human doctors
Sure.
or human anybody. I mean, already medical imaging had kind of gone out of the path of doctors and gone to medical imaging specialists. But now, computers have really taken that over at this point.
Yeah.
And there's some things that it's just going to happen. But so the question becomes, manual labor is going to go away. Certainly, right? Waiting tables, that is not a job that humans are going to have much longer because robots will be so much better at it. And, taking orders, stuff like that, they're going to be a lot better at that too. Like, I mean, we saw the first completely automated McDonald's come online, I think in Dallas.
Mhm.
Um,
There's automated pizza shops in California now.
yep, there was a big story recently that made the news that was on because it was on TikTok, where a guy ordered 80 chicken McNuggets and then canceled the order when he got to the drive-through. So he ordered it on one end, and when he went to pick it up, he said, never mind, I'm leaving, and didn't pay for it. That doesn't happen with an AI system because you pay for everything before it gets made. It just makes so much more sense for producers. But the one argument that I will make for at least some aspects of socialism is that the people who own uh, industrialism, who own factories, stuff like that, they're going to replace everybody with robots. Every place you can, you're going to get rid of humans and you're going to have robots. And so when that happens, what does that mean for human beings? What does it mean for the people who don't own those production companies, who don't own farms? A friend of mine he said, well, labor's not going to be worth anything. It's all going to be about ownership. I'm like, well, that's bad because as I don't remember the exact number, but it's something like 40% of America's wealth is owned by 40 families. The concentration at the top is unbelievable.
That's
And
To me,
go ahead.
that's the thing, is that how do you get to that next stage without having massive political disruptions in, when people in the middle class, what's left of the middle class, and even some of the upper middle class and lower upper class start losing their jobs because, an AI lawyer does a lot better than a human lawyer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in terms of agriculture, one of the interesting things that's going to happen is as robots really step up, you can actually buy, uh, you know what a cold frame is, but essentially it's a small box that you garden in. Um, you can buy AI cold frames now. They're like 8 feet long by 4 feet wide, and there's a robot over the top of them, and it goes over each plant every day and it looks for weeds. And if there are weeds, it plucks them out. And if it needs water, it waters it. And it takes the soil temperature and does all these things that for humans would be what a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So you're going to see these massive production increases as the machines step up, which in theory should mean that prices would come way down. But
Oh, yes.
do we really believe that's what's going to happen?
No.
Or will the people who own the means of production make artificial scarcity so the prices stay high, even though their costs go way down? So
People starve.
yeah, it's a tough question to be in. That's a tough place for libertarians to be in, because is the market equipped to deal with something like this?
Yeah, and with those 40 families so deep in bed with government right now,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
there really isn't a free market solution to this because they've owned the
Because there's no
market.
free
It
market.
is the market. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's, at least for me, it's been so important to fight for this stuff right now. Because if you have this, and let's call it fascism/socialism, right? This tight cooperation between industry and government, then industry uses government for protectionism to create barriers to entry so that you can't get in and compete. In an ideal world, right? If good farming robots come along, I would buy one and I would be growing food in my own yard,
Yeah.
which works for me because I have a yard. But people would be growing food in parks, stuff like that. However, if the people who control everything control the robot factories, they're not going to let you have those robots in the first place.
No.
So I don't know. We're coming up
Overregulate the hell out of them. Yeah.
to a thorny problem. Fortunately for me, I won't have to deal with it. But AJ, your generation is going to have to. So
You
good
think the
luck.
millennials are dealing with this?
No, the millennials want to be bought off by the machines.
Well,
The
I
millennials.
am the millennials.
Are you a millennial?
Yes, millennials are adults. Gen Z may be who you're thinking of because those are the kids.
Gen Z is waiting for Soylent Green to come online. That's all they want. They're
People.
like, is Soylent Green like avocado toast? Because they're both green. We'd be happy if we could have avocado toast every day.
Dan, I was hoping you'd get the reference on the scroll screen at the bottom.
I do, of course. War games.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Because you were talking about the
game, Professor
making
Falcon.
the
The only way to win is
tic-tac-toe game.
right.
That's right.
I did mention it because I thought everybody got it. But I will tell you what, it's Jamie Lee Gertz in that, right? Man, she haunted my dreams as a teenage boy.
Yeah. She was a smoke show.
Yep.
Mid-'80s love. Anyway.
Everything just stopped right there.
Yeah,
It's like
sorry.
the boys
Sorry,
are gone.
I'm having a moment now.
My inappropriate comments. It's probably time to go to bed.
It is time to go to bed. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, share, and subscribe. Why I'm all clean shaven. This is going to go away soon because I've got razor burn all over my face right now and I'm hating life. But yeah, I've got to 100 subscribers this last week. I'm actually at 112 now. So moving on up to the east side. But thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, getting friends to subscribe and all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Check out the YouTube channel every day during the week. I do the daily news minutes talking about the big news story of the day. So check that out. And we'll talk to everyone next week. I really appreciate you watching the show. And thanks for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody.
Like, click, and subscribe. Bye, guys.
Bye.